Here at Explainer, we love the ocean, and we love marine life. Unfortunately, we're also deeply fascinated by how things can go deeply wrong for marine life. I'm guessing you're here for that too. We've talked about exploding plankton, parasites, and even bad parenting. But there's one story we touched on that we never had a true resolution for. And that's sea star wasting disease. The phenomenon where sea stars, or starfish, simply start falling apart and decaying. Last time we talked about the sea stars in the Antarctic, but it's really a threat all around the world for a whole host of species, and the delicate ecosystems which depend on their protection. For example, sunflower sea stars protect kelp forests by keeping sea urchin populations in check. And yet, all the sunflower sea stars in the southern United States have been wiped out by this disease, and only a fraction of those in the north remain. Fortunately, scientists have found the culprit, and they published it in this paper which dropped 4 days ago. We're so on top of things. Unfortunately, it's an invisible enemy that is much sneakier and more sinister than we thought. Our warming climate may be accelerating its spread. We're in a race against the clock to find a cure before this ancient serial killer strikes again. I'm Rhowan, Marine Bio Master's student at Scripps Institution of Oceanography, and this is... By the way, we now have a coffee, so you too can be the sea star supporting the kelp forest that is this channel. We're saving up to get our own camera equipment instead of relying on rentals, so we can produce these videos at a higher and more consistent quality. And you can make that happen. First, your arms start twisting into themselves, like you're being crumpled, but from the inside. Then, they loosen and eventually fall free from your body entirely. In as little as 6 days, your body itself shuts down. It atrophies away, leaving nothing behind but a cloud of organic particulates in the currents. The paper describes these stages of death as twist, drop, and mort, which makes for a pretty sweet set of dance moves. Twist! Twist it! Drop it! Mortis! So how do you even begin to investigate a killer that acts so quickly and leaves nothing behind? At first glance, researchers thought a virus was responsible, though that theory has since been disproven. Examinations of the diseased tissue show damage, but no evidence of who done it. Well, when in doubt, channel the ancient scientific art of stick a needle in it and see what happens. So, in 2021, researchers employed controlled exposure experiments. Basically, they took juice from infected sea stars and put it into non-infected sea stars. First, they'd extract fluids from the body cavity of an infected sea star. Then, one group of healthy sea stars would be injected with raw juice, while another, the control group, had the juice sterilized by boiling before injection. So, as expected, the group with the raw juice had their arms fall off. Damn, sucks. While the control group with the sterile juice remained healthy throughout the entire experiment. They also tried infecting healthy sea stars with contaminated seawater and physical contact, but injections remained the most potent means of disease transmission. That was because the fluid that surrounds internal organs, or coelomic fluid, carried the real killer. In other words, the secret was in the sauce. The internal organ sauce, but sauce nonetheless, which explains why it eluded detection for so long. Researchers were studying dead sea stars that had already lost their fluids. They were investigating a crime scene long after the killer had already left. So we know where the killer lives, but we don't know who or what it is. Fortunately, gene sequencing revealed 3 suspects. It turns out all of them were Vibrio bacteria. Yes, the same Vibrio which Vibrio cholera belongs to. Cholera is actually one of the tamer siblings in the family because Vibrio vulnificus, which you can get from swimming, will literally eat your skin off. But only one of them was strongly present in all of the infected, and none of the healthy ones. And that's our main suspect, Vibrio pectinicida. Pectinicida? I highly... As it turns out, this sneaky bastard has been infecting other species too. It was initially described in oysters and scallop larvae in the 90s, where its main weapon was a toxin named Vibrio hemocyte killer toxin. Pretty sick. But V. pectinicida isn't just armed, it's also stealthy. Researchers couldn't find any traces of its cells in its dead victims, only the proteins it left behind, which helped it escape detection for decades. Now that we know who they are, We're starting to see them everywhere, even in healthy communities. Field research suggests that low levels of Vibrio pectinicida can be tolerated. That is, until environmental changes, like warmer temperatures, favor the spread of the bacteria. The paper describes it as the microbial barometer of climate change, as it becomes more common in warmer waters. So it sounds pretty grim. What would the world look like if they won? Without their natural predators around, sea urchins 95% of Northern California's kelp forests in the last decade alone. No creature stepped in to fill the gap left behind in the wake of Vibrio pectinicida's rampage, a testament to the importance of keystone species and the delicate balance of the natural world. However, after fighting a losing battle for 10 long years, researchers now have the tools to stop this starfish serial killer. They're looking into breeding naturally immune sea stars to restore the numbers, as well as developing probiotics to boost their immunity in the wild. So, wish upon a star. There is hope for them yet. Credit to Dr. Prentice and their team for the 4 years of long research. Excellent detective work like this wouldn't have been possible without funding from the Nature Conservancy of California and the Tula Foundation, among others. Independently made science communication work like this is also made possible by your support. So buy us a coffee down below if you so fancy. Our blood is like 90% caffeine at this point. Or just leave a like and a comment down below. Every bit helps. Bye!